guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining article titled, "The 6 Things I Had to Learn Before I Could Finally Find a Great Guy." And guys, this article is written by a woman who is definitely past her prime. And to no surprise, she hasn't found her great guy yet. And yet, she obviously wants one. But what's the problem that's been going around for quite some time these days with the single women out there? They're psychotically picky. Psychotically high standards and unrealistic standards as to what they feel entitled to in a man. And for you guys who have been watching me a long time, you all know those types of things, the 6s. But since I got a lot of newcomers all the time, I think I'll just remind you guys what that is. The typical 6s. A guy that is 6 feet tall or taller. A guy that has the 6-pack, phenomenal body. A guy that has 6 inches or more down south. A guy that makes 6 figures or more. A guy to throw in extras, guys with advanced degrees. Guys that speaks a foreign language, plays a musical instrument, just the list goes on and on. And realistically, statistically, what are the odds of finding a guy, a single man that has all those traits? I mean, what are the percentages out there? Pretty darn small. Okay, let alone that has just a few of those qualities or even one, right? But it doesn't matter. Now, here's the thing, because I've been doing this a while now. It is one thing if, let's just say, you have a single woman and she is in her prime, the 20s, and she herself, in terms of her looks, the facial features, her body type, is what most guys would categorize as a 9 or a 10. Okay, she's got, obviously, the ability to be a little choosy, And let's just say also that she herself does well for herself, makes good money, she's educated and all that. Then someone can be a little bit picky, okay? I can understand a little bit, having some standards. But that's not what we have nowadays. You have just average gals. Average. 5s and 6s. Maybe occasionally a 7 that feels entitled to a guy like that. And it's like, well, what do you bring to the table? Right? And it's amazing to me these psychotically high standards that are out there, and yet they complain there's no good men. Right? I mean, I kid you not, you got gals that are average that feel entitled to a guy with a 6-pack, and yet they got an ass the size of a Ford Expedition. And you want a guy with a 6-pack? I mean, Home Depot doesn't have enough rope to go around and measure your waistline, and you want a guy with a 6-pack? Or they want a guy that's above 6 feet tall. They want a guy 6'5". It's like, you're barely 5 feet tall. You can barely see above the dashboard. What are you talking about? Or you want a guy that makes $200,000 a year while you work at the register at Walmart. What are you talking about? Or you want a guy that has a 9-inch you-know-what. Well, you barely can fit into a training bra. You see how absurd these things are? I know I'm exaggerating here, but you guys get the point. And so this is what we have nowadays. And then what usually happens is after realizing, well, I can't get a guy, God forbid I got to lower my standards. So this is an article just like that when she realizes, well, maybe I'm a little too picky here. So I thought it'd be pretty funny to go over here. So it starts off, when she gets right into it, she goes, okay, again, the title is 6 Things I Had to Learn Before I Could Finally Find a Great Guy. Number 1, I had to give up the fantasy. That hits the nail right on the head right there. If I could figure out how to make money off of my ability to find something wrong with guys, I'd be a millionaire several times over. That says it all. Newsflash, there's no perfect guys out there. There's no perfect women out there either. There was this little voice inside of me that didn't want to do the work of being vulnerable and dating someone and maybe getting my heart broken, so I would invent reasons why a guy was a weirdo or someone not worth getting to know. He used a you instead of a you while texting. He had a cat. He took selfies. Whatever. I had to look at the great guys in my life and imagine just meeting them. They're the best guys I know, and I had to admit that they would sometimes come off as weird, and I would have written them off. No guy seems perfect when you meet him. You have to look past everyday awkwardness and embarrassing mannerisms and see what kind of character and personality they have. This takes time. Weirdness, awkward. How about you? Seriously, what do you bring to the table? You're not telling me you don't have some weird things about you? But come on here. Number 2, I had to learn to speak up. I'm not a gregarious person. I wish I was, but I tend to be more on the reserve side, which sucks for dating because I'm never going to march up to a guy that I think is cute and ask him out. But what I learned is I don't have to be the person I don't have to be that person, but I do have to work hard to make conversation with the men around me, because that is how you meet new people. Yeah, you mean actually act like a human being? Engage in a conversation, not just sitting there thinking, well, I'm so hot, I have such high value, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to talk to the guy, I don't need to flirt, I don't need to smile. If he texts me, I don't need to respond, because I'm so amazing, I'm such a catch. I did this by hanging out with my most outgoing friend and telling her I was trying to become the kind of person who makes friends while they were out. Well, that's not too hard, just be friendly. Just smile. Don't have body language that says F you to everybody. Since she is the kind of person who will march up to a group of guys and start a conversation, it was easy to learn from her. She was the icebreaker, and I got to boost my confidence while learning that people at bars like to talk to you. And far from being a shy person's nightmare, it's actually really fun. Yeah, again, speak up. You can have a conversation, not just expect all guys to come to you because you're just so amazing. A lot of girls want to meet someone while they're out, but they spend the night looking at their phone or being too shy or forcing any guy who talks to them to lead 99% of the conversation. Ding, ding, ding. This is a very, very slow path to progress. Learn how to ask questions and be social. The worst thing that can happen is you end up with a bunch of new friends. Yeah, in other words, you're not that special, so you're going to have to speak up and engage in conversations. And, more guys starting to realize they have value too, and starting to learn a lot of things I talk about and other channels talk about, they're not going to waste their time with women like that anymore. Back in the day, obviously, she's hot, she's got a good body. Okay, a guy will climb mountains to potentially get a piece of that. But nowadays, the direction that guys are going, no. She better have a personality. She better actually be engaged in a conversation. Because the days her just sitting there looking hot and having dudes left and right, it's going to slowly start to change as more guys realize, I'm not going to deal with this bullshit. I'd rather talk to a girl who's not as good looking, but actually has a personality. Number 3, I had to do the work of flirting when I didn't feel like it. Again, you actually had to make the effort. Imagine that. I was in a bit of a cycle in my single life of meeting a somewhat promising guy and texting him for a while and then getting bored with it. He'd say something that fell flat with me, and I'd get busy and forget to respond, and then it seemed awkward or tiresome to keep the conversation going. Translation, in my prime, I had so many guys I was talking to, because that's how it works, that this guy wasn't entertaining me all the time, or didn't see him as a catch. I'll just ghost him, who cares, because there's a never-ending supply of guys to do that. And by the way, as I say this all the time, guys, I have to mention this because it needs to be said, where does a lot of this attitude come from? Think about it. Where does it come from? The level of entitlement and sometimes narcissism, it comes a lot of the times from guys. In the era of social media and dating apps and all that, when a gal starts an Instagram account and she's pretty, has pictures of herself, there's a never-ending supply of guys all over the world, 24/7, 365, that can give her attention, liking her pictures, commenting on her pictures, saying how hot she is, how they would do this, and this, blah, blah, blah. Direct messaging her, or in the dating apps, bombarding her with emails and all stuff like that. So is any wonder you have gals out there that act like this, feel entitled to all this. And again, this is not just the 9s and the 10s, the average ones, or the ones that were once physically looked like the 9s and 10s, but got fat after college because they're like, hey, guys will always like me, and they still think they're entitled to those guys, even though they're like 50 pounds bigger. All right? Where does it come from? From guys. So I tell guys to stop doing that. Stop liking all those pictures on Instagram. You're just making it worse. Stop bombarding with messages on the dating apps. On. Stop, when you're out in public, stop staring at them like it was the first time you've ever seen a good-looking woman walk by. This builds the egos. And don't get me started on the feminist movement saying you deserve everything. Anyhow, I learned that I was wasting a ton of time and energy doing this. Why go halfway with a bunch of guys and then move on without finding out if we click? And if you really can't tell if you click with someone until you're sitting in front of them, not just texting. I pledged to only give my number out to guys I was really interested in, and then to respond to every text message I got, even if it was with a I don't really see this going anywhere, if we did find out if we didn't actually like each other. Again, back to guess what? She actually does need to make an effort. But again, if in the days of her prime, when she was obviously her peak, and have never-ending supply of guys doing this, she could continue doing these things. Not making the effort, not giving a shit. But obviously now she's no longer in her prime. This is what I've connected the dots, and she wasn't getting anywhere. Now she's got to make the effort and actually act like a human being here. She says, to no surprise, I went on a lot more dates, and they were fun. Oh, imagine that. I found that when I would give a guy positive attention through flirting, I benefited from it because he felt more confident to pursue and compliment me. Well, that attention and validation there. Number 4. This is a real good one. I had to apply the standards I had for men to myself. Imagine that. You're saying you want this, and this in a guy, and yet you're lacking that department? How does that exactly work? It was great to want a rich, mature, successful guy, but I was a little bit of a mess. Shocker. When I got my act together and became a more ideal match in the areas I cared about, I was more confident about what I had to offer, and my dates went better. I didn't feel like someone was rescuing me from my hot mess 20-something life. I felt like I was a catch, and I acted a lot more confidently because of it. I just find that so funny right here. I had to apply the standards I had for men to myself. Yeah, you want a guy with a six-pack, a great body and shape, and yet you're 75 pounds overweight. How's that work? Get on a freaking diet. Join Weight Watchers. Join a gym. Stop eating takeout food all the time. Stop consuming all this alcohol and putting garbage in your body, and take care of yourself. And you got yourself a nice, good-looking body? Okay. And you're going to the gym all the time? Then it's a little more warranted that you want a guy that takes care of himself. You want a guy that does very well financially, makes 6 figures? Then you get to a job you're making equivalent to that. Then it's a little more warranted to want that guy. But if you're working at Burger King and you're working the takeout window, no, you don't. I'm not entitled to a guy that makes 6 figures. And you get my point, guys, with all this. Number 5, I had to compromise on some things. Oh no, the travesty here. You mean you couldn't have a guy that met all 45 different things in your list? I made a list of each and everything I wanted in my ideal man. It was insane. Big surprise there. If I had met Ryan Gosling on the street, even he would have made it past on this list. On top of the list, whittling my dating pool down to about 0. I didn't like what it said about me. I didn't want to be fussy, picky person. I want to be loving and generous. Right there. A lot of women liked Ryan Gosling, so even she admits, my list was so long, my standards were so high, that even if I met him and he was interested in me, I wouldn't be interested in him. What does that say? Again, back to applying the standards for herself. So I went through my list and crossed out the things that were low importance to me and circled things that were very important to me. I ended up with a handful of things that I truly cared about, and the knowledge that while things like tall are great, they are not deal breakers, and they mean a lot less to me than a man with a spirit of generosity or one who likes to read. Again, translation, I'm no longer in my prime. I can't get the attention from guys I used to get, so God forbid I gotta lower my standards. And I've said this before, guys, I get certain deal breakers for you relationship guys. One of the biggest ones, if you have someone that is very religious, their religious faith is very important to them. Well, then obviously it's ideal that if they're looking for someone to be serious with, that their match is also, ideally also the same religion, but also it's equally important to them. So I get that. That could be a very understandable deal breaker. Fair enough. Or, and I always say this, someone that's really into fitness and health. They take care of their bodies. They're at the gym. They're riding their bike. They're jogging. They're mountain climbing. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're physically active. They're eating healthy and well. They want someone that is just like that. That's an understandable deal breaker. However, not giving a guy a chance because you want a guy who's 6'2" and he's 6'1.5" and can't do it. That's ridiculous. Or you want a guy that has a 6-pack, but during winter when people tend to not be as strict with their diets and everything, even the fitness nuts, he has a 4-pack. Oh well, nope, never mind. He's got a 4-pack. There's a little bit of body fat there. I'm not going to give him the time of day. It's ridiculous. Okay, come on here. Number 6, another favorite of mine. I had to stop wondering what my friends would think. I tell you guys all the time, for you relationship guys, pay attention to who your girl hangs out with. Your girlfriend, your fiance, your wife, if that's what you're doing. because they're going to influence her, and they always care what their friends think. This starts when they're little kids, and it goes all the way up to when they're a bunch of old ladies sitting around drinking iced tea and playing bridge in the old people home. They care what their friends think. The problem is, a lot of the friends can sabotage things because these so-called friends or frenemies don't want said friend, the girl, to have somebody because they themselves are alone and miserable as company. She says, no one likes admitting that they put a premium on what their friends think about their lives, but we all do it. A lot of people do it, and in varying degrees. But it's been my observation that women take it to a whole new level. Every time I went on a date, I thought about what kind of cachet the guy would bring me, and whether my friends would be impressed, or they would think that he was funny looking or not successful enough. Not successful enough. It's not fun to say, but those nasty little thoughts were present. None of this surprises me. I had to learn how to not care. My friends weren't going to spend the rest of their lives with this guy. I was. Would I want to spend my life with any of their boyfriends? Were they perfect? Definitely not. And I don't care. I only judge them on how they treat my friends and whether they are happy together. It should be no different than me. So there you go, guys. It's a quick one, but it pretty much hits the nail on the head. All these different absurd things that the gals nowadays, and I'm not just talking about the ones in their prime, college age, 20s, even going into the early 30s. I'm talking 40s and 50s, newly divorced and with psychotically high standards. Like, what are you talking about? Come down to earth. Let's deflate that giant ego here and realize you got some good things going. But again, you're not perfect. And you're not a 9, you're not a 10, you're not in your prime. And even then, good luck trying to statistically get all these things. But it's pretty funny when a gal moves on from the prime and realizes, oh shit, I actually got to actually have a conversation with the guy, or actually respond to his texts, or not have 45 different things on the list of deal breakers to have this guy. I'm not going to get very far. It's pretty funny when reality comes a-knocking, and it will always do that. So for you guys that are in dating relationships, I'm sure you're more than aware, or you guys that regularly date, how picky the gals out there nowadays. Where do you live? Here in the West or around the world, it's always the same story. And how do I know? Because I've done 1,000 videos between both channels now, and I've lived 44 years, and I see what's out there. Not to mention all the people I talk to and all that. Anyhow, guys, that'd be a pretty funny one to go over there. It's always interesting to see when reality sets in with these types. Okay, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know, guys, if you have had encounters with gals like this in your dating lives. I'd like to hear about it. And also, guys, you come across a really good article you'd like to share with me, a personal story, a crazy story, I don't care what the hell it is. Just as long as it's something that's good for this channel, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me time, I'll get to it when I can. I get a lot of these things, so I can only do so many each day, each week, each month. But bear with me. If it's good, I'll get to it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.